Think it will be time for you to start. All right. Welcome everybody. So we are going to start with our conference on redefining our language learning practices to nurture equitable multilingual. Thank you, learning. Okay. Do we have anyone online? Yes, we do have a few. So good morning, everyone. Thank you for coming. That's for quite a long time when I'll constitute for adults, not for babies. To be honest, for those who are online, I can suggest I have a QR code. If you scan it, you can have access to the Padlet and you can participate in discussions. We do have some discussions for today, but it's more about reflecting on who you are, first of all, and then what you do. Okay, thank you. And I want to ask you to be open about what I'm going to say in some cases, because I know that everyone we have our own experience, and sometimes our work experience and our personal experience can contradict each other. And in this case, when we're talking about multilingual cases, I want you to think what can be other way. Do you have the same experiences or not? And how that all influence our personality. So my speech today I would like to start with giving you two examples, two stories of the real people. I would say in quite similar situation. And then after the stories, I would like to hear a little bit of your feedback. So the story one is about Susie, she's an Italian woman. She's an expert in the field of education. She has like 30 plus years of teaching. She was teaching in university for many years until one day she decided that it's time to go and proceed her doctoral degree. So the best choice for English teacher will be to go to the UK, in the UK. So she went to the UK with all her knowledge, with all her expertise, and she was quite confident in what she was doing. But then, in some point of time, she realized that she knows the answer, she wants to hear, but she cannot. She's a teacher, 30 years of experience, but she cannot. And what she described was, I'm quoting, sometimes I'll start a sentence and I don't know even where it is going. I hope to find it along the way. She was not able to escape of this fear to like make a mistake in a while because when like you cannot say something or you're not like trying to find the right term, the right word. You start like doubting yourself, but you start being more and more close to talk with her colleagues. And then she starts developing fear like of talking in general and fear of like what's gonna be next, and loneliness have within the time, but that was her thing. This is story one. Story two is close enough. So here we have a barber. She's named English. She went to Italy to work. She also worked there for quite a long time. So she's a teacher by training. She came to Italy, lived there like 15 years, and then she decided to go back to the UK. You go back to your home country, you feel euphorious, yes? You know you are in the right place, in the country you were grown, all the memories. So she was happy. She was happy, and she described that she was happy about the fact that her inner voice, how she speaks to herself, how she was thinking, was the same that she had to pronounce. I think it's revealing. It's like you were somewhere traveling and you need to talk with language you're not really comfortable enough. Yeah. You always have this like, oh, I have to say that, or like translating in your head. However, Victoria was not very much. So that in her new working environment, she has a struggle to express her feelings, to speaking with freely. And basically, she first time was not understanding why it's happening. Then she comes to realization that she left 15 years ago, and for English, was old 15 years ago. Because when she moved to Italy, even she was teaching, the language repertoire she was using, it wasn't the same that she needs now. So basically, she had to overcome this idea of how to speak, again, to be heard, to feel this freedom of speaking. So now you have heard two stories, similar and different both ways. Yeah? How do you think why they are similar and different in both ways? Or where is more like similarity or difference in both? Any suggestions? I need a little bit of perspective. No?
Well, the fact that Barbara was not feeling well after a while, she was able to have a discussion with herself, and Susie didn't have that at some point.
At some point, yeah. But the part is here is how we feel emotionally. It's about how we feel our place. So in general, all the situation you can describe with idea that both of them felt lonely because they both kind of have the same problem. They couldn't understand, do not understand, they couldn't express themselves. Yes? They start doubting. Two grown up women with successful careers, they start doubting. Am I good enough? Am I good as a teacher in one case? Yes. If I teach and I cannot freely, am I good like a person because I was raised in this, but I cannot speak it freely? Yes. So this comes to this perfect picture that I found that language identity. Language identity is made of three parts: culture, language, and identity. So if you take, for example, language, how you're confident in communicating in language, the identity and culture will start rocking your spirit base. And when we're talking about multilingualism, it's the idea that to remember that you cannot take away culture and identity. Many of us, when we teach and we read about practices, especially about a little bit like old style practices, identity, no, we talk about culture, but we talk about culture of the country, the language we are using, yes? We talk about what the traditions in English speaking countries, what traditions like German speaking. Yeah? But do we talk about how this culture is connected to our culture? How to make it your own culture? Because if you have your culture, culture is the basis of language and identity. If you go somewhere and like you see a Chinese person, you will see that it's Chinese person, not Korean, not Japanese, just because the way they present themselves in their mood, in their accent. So when we educating our students and we trying to teach them any language, I suppose this is the most important thing that we need to remember. If we go to the next slide, there will be another question that I would like to ask you about languages can unite or divide us, but who benefits from this segregation? What does it mean? This is the same example that the stories gave us, that now you understand what I'm saying. English, like as much as I don't like the word to describe native speaker not, I'm not native speaker. But does it matter? At the moment, no. We have something in common. If I start mixing, for example, languages like здравствуйте, I'm here to make something less understandable. No. Well,
Yeah,
yes,
it
I'm
would work.
sort of. But we still can get, yes?
Uh,
So this is why.
yeah.
But in general, there is the perception that switching from one language to another does it influence how I identify myself? How does it influence my general culture? No. So think about when we teach that, for example, and I go later a little bit to this, that students, you cannot speak this language because this is like, for example, English class. How right is it? Yes? And if we go on this slide, I would like to ask you, and this one I will actually ask. So how do you feel, do you feel like a different person sometimes when you use a different language?
I feel less capable because I can't express myself like in Russian as much as I can express myself in English. So I think maybe I have a different personality, like I'm a quieter person.
Could be. Any other variant? I remember like I lived in China for 13 years. And my parents came to visit me. And we went walking around and there was like something my mom wanted to buy, which is like an invite for me because she's Chinese. But okay. We were there and then she bought it. Bought it again, like telling my mom, wow, that's what you wanted. And like good price and everything. And my mom said, how did you know that that's hidden? No, I did not. We were just talking. Like, we were standing in the middle of the street and yelling to each other. And like, no, we were talking. Cultural identity. And if we go to the next one, I think this is a perfect how to describe it. So I'm a different person in each of the languages. In English, I'm more assertive. In French, I'm more relaxed. In Spanish, I'm more sentimental. In German, I'm more serious. And I think if you know like the language, even if you switch from like Latvian to Russian, Latvian to English, you will see still the differences in yourself. And this is what you described. Yes.
For example, me in Spanish, I'm a bit I'm a Spanish speaker myself, and in Spanish I'm a bit more funny, obviously, but in English I swear more because I don't really feel it. I don't really feel the offensiveness of it. Whereas if I were using the same cursing stuff in Spanish, I will be less likely to use it. So don't mess with me in English. I'm kidding.
So okay, this perspective it comes that we changing not only our language choice, we changing our culture of communication, our culture of presenting our identity. Yes. So every time you speak about how to speak different languages and so on, I think it's important to understand that every time you kind of open another part of you, another part of the person you're talking. And next slide will ask you the question, how does all these stories related to your, like to our multilingual content? Like we all teaching somewhere, I suppose. And we have all the students that actually know more than one language. We have English, we have Russian, we have Latvian, maybe there is something more. We have the teachers that, but the final result of all our teaching, how we want our students. Do we want our students to speak English fluently, as it's called like native language, like native speakers? But again, what is native? Yeah, native speaker even in states, go south, go north. Yes. Native speakers of English in India. Which one do you want? How to choose? Do we need actually that knowledge, or we just need understanding of culture, be certain what we are, who we are, yes, what we want, our identity, ability to settle. So when we're talking about multilingualism, it's more about the switch we have in the brain. And yes, this is a quote I found on Instagram. But this is a quote of a student from international school, and I think it can be maybe you heard the same similar story. So he's already alumni, and this is his reflection back 2 years. We were first to only speak English on campus, so that English only speaking students don't feel excluded. For example, when Korean students speak Korean to each other, and so that we can learn English faster. We were penalized when we spoke our own language on campus, and I still don't know how to articulate why these things wrong. How do you think? Is it wrong or right? When you say like don't speak this language, It's like these times, you need to practice like English because it's fair that like your English will become better. Others will understand how fair it is.
I think it's wrong for many reasons. I think it's wrong. People can become overloaded when they're operating in a language that is not their own, a language that they're learning, and then out like playtime or at lunchtime, and they're speaking in their own language. I think it helps them to relax and feel safe and comfortable and express themselves. So I think it's good for their well-being. But I also think of my own school, and like I will walk into a room and some people will be speaking Latvian and literally they switch mid-sentence to when I come in. And for me, that's the ideal because I don't speak Latvian. And for me, that's the ideal. They feel comfortable. And sometimes they'll say, carry on, not my conversation. Please carry on. I think I think people need to be able to speak their own languages. And having worked at an international school where we literally were carrying around clipboards and going, you were speaking in Russian, and you've got 3 demerits for 3 points off your house because I just heard you speaking in, Mandarin. It's just bad.
So like if you're a child and you are told like you cannot speak, for example, like Chinese, you cannot speak Mandarin because it's English school, you speak so everyone can understand, you practice. Doesn't make this child think that maybe because he's Chinese and he's like not English speaker and his language is worse. How horrible is to think that your language is worse than someone else's. We have a lot of million of the stories how one language is seems like more fashionable. Another one is different. And see, this is the part where we talk about equity. That why one language should be lower than another one. One language should be better than. It's not actually. This is the part that like, okay, this is more convenient to communicate in these languages. Okay? But why, for example, speaking Latvian is not as good as speaking Russian, or the other way around. Why English is better than Latvian? Yes? Do you want to say no to part of your culture? We have all this story of oppression in its history, and now we kind of start dealing with the results of most of them. And if we go to the next slide, I want to again come to you with 2 questions. How can our teaching method and curriculum undo the monolingual focus? I put the English one because mostly it's about English in this moment of time, but it can be related to any language, I suppose. And why should we promote language equity in our learning space? Why does it matter? You're my favorite person.
I think it just matters for children's well-being, for creating a safe space for the kind of future adults, future citizens of the world that we want. And I think it's not natural. Like I have a bilingual daughter, and I sometimes listen to her play with other Russian English-speaking children, and I know some people are like, one parent, one language, one parent, one language. But I watch her just naturally play, and they go in and out of languages. And like, I don't even know, I've listened hours and I don't even know what triggers it. Just someone will say something and then they go back into Russian. And it's just, this is the way, and it looks fun. And I see this in Latvia, because actually I just saw the statistic that most Latvians speak 2.8 languages. All right. And I see this constantly. It's like a dance of language, and people are in and out of it. And I just think it's beautiful, and I think it reflects how people live, and it reflects their experience, and it's not forced. It's just a lovely thing.
And I also noticed, like, for me, I speak several languages, like more or less freely. And some languages, like I read or something. But for me, that gives the taste of the language. When I know that I will not be judged, yeah, and I know that I can like, oh, okay, I can have like these, but if I do that, that's this language. I don't feel judged. I have more reasons to love the language. we all talking about why students are not motivated, why they don't want to read books, yes? Why they don't want to read, why they're not motivated, why they're not motivated, because ask teenager, do something, and then I'll put you the score. I'll give the score. He will say, no. Yeah? We all have been there. It's like every child is looking for well-being. So feel free, feel loved, feel protected, not that. And that comes when multilingual status helps us to not only form the global citizen, but also it helps to develop social justice. That will be open-minded person who will never say that, oh, you've done this mistake in your language. Oh, you're not good enough. Your study is not good enough. And thank you. Next one. Thank you. And now, as we talked about how we can promote these, I want you to give example. Sorry, next one more. I want to.
One more?
Oh, yes, please.
Okay.
I want to tell you about the beautiful and very new words. Yeah, translanguaging. Translanguaging is not very, but still like the term that is getting into the fashion. It's a lot in IT and it's growing. When I start reading about that, I understand this is what I'm praying for, because this is actually what I like. In this case, I will just tell you that further on we will see this part like I wrote home language, but home language is not only the one that is first language, but it's any language that school or community can provide further. So, and multilinguals and bilinguals here can be interchangeable. So, first language, who knows what it is? Anyone? When you're mixing languages? This is a totally little bit mixed up. There is a future. There's code switching, code matching, and translation. Translation is a cognitive process. It's not just switching from one language to another, because switching from one language to another will be, for example, I translate in my head how to say something. Translation is when your brain switches. So it's like when you think and you don't see this line. Okay, now I will say in English. It will be I read the book in whatever language, and now I see the person, and I know, like, for example, Spanish speaking person. So I will automatically reply in Spanish because I feel and like this person for me connected with Spanish language. And I don't will see this like, oh, I need. It's just feeling. So when we talking about code switching, it's just more technical. Some people, some linguists say that this is the same, but I would love to kind of distinguish them a little. And you see that like translanguaging as a team, as a practice, starts in Welsh communities in UK because they were feeling that Welsh language was not that so they wanted to support it, but it works for any language there is a So now I'll give you an example how that looks in the class translanguage. Yeah? Do some reading here. Please, sir. So math class. With the students from 6 different languages background, the teacher was teaching students how to determine the volume of different three-dimensional figures. So cube, prism, and so on. 3 different languages in class. Oh, sorry, 6. Students have a journal in their home language or in English to answer the question, what is volume and how do we determine volume in the figure? The teacher began by reviewing some basic math vocabulary, as like he usually do. So what is volume, what is code, what is prism, what is cylinder? And then he was showing the different objects and was saying like, can you find me examples in real life? It's a normal practice, yes. And then she was asking the students to say the name of the object in their own language. Can I ask you, how to say cylinder in Spanish?
Cilindro.
Can you see something common? How do you think will the child who's a Spanish speaker and who's not very talkative in general, and the teacher is promoting this like, oh, what is this language? What is this language? First, my question will be, is it developed interest in other languages? Why Spanish and English sound eligible? Probably yes. You will ask yourself why. And then it also helps you with the concept understanding. So if the child knows that this is the same, this sounds the same, the concept will be that it's not only he understands math easier, yes, but he also knows that maybe some words that sound similar will have a similar meaning. So you encourage him to take these three together. And this is a good skill, as we know, like language teacher. Yes, to predict what will be in the sentence, what will be in the meaning. Usually he's not very open to guessing. They feel like, well, guessing, I will make mistake and I will be there. But so the teacher begins with this one. We recognize that Spanish word and English words are quite similar. And then students start solving problems to find the volume of different figures they set in groups of their home language. So the group of similar or identical languages. It could be similar. In my practice, for example, I were combining students from Belarus, Ukraine, and Russian. The languages are similar, but not identical in most cases. So, and they were doing their type, they were using whether they're like English or one of their home languages, and they were presenting the results in English. What we did achieve during this. As a math teacher, you will ask yourself, does my students know what they do? Yes, they will know. As an English teacher, do your students know what they talked about? Yes. Do they know how to use vocabulary? Yes. Do we overall map the objectives of the class? Probably. How kids felt like, how students felt during this? Did they feel stressed? Like, not more than usual, probably, yes. Not like, oh, I don't know what to say in that. Because they had idea that even in communicating their groups, which allow them to communicate in their language, there will be always a student who can help with their understanding better if someone is weak. If you are second language, if you are a EL support teacher, yes, basically he's doing your job that other students. So in this example, what three ideas of trans-language strategies the teacher used? The first one was that she asked students to share the names of figures in every language. He may don't know six languages. It's very hard to find a teacher who will know every language in the class. But you can guess, even if you don't know the language, yes, which one is sounding right. I was teaching Korean students, I was teaching Chinese students. I know Chinese, I don't know Korean. But I could guess when the word was more or less right. Yeah, that always helps. So you find the similarities. You find the similar ideas. Second one was the student can use different resources. When they are discussing their rules, if the child wants to use some translating machine, why not? If the child wants to use dictionary, what's bad in dictionary? He will open the dictionary, he will find the word in English, he will translate it, he will know those words. Do you need, like, if you remember that picture that, like, in our ideas or in our heads there is a triangle, like, meaning of the word, sounding of the word, and the picture. So this is one more input, yeah? So you don't need to form completely new one. That will be already there. Then the teacher also plays them in the group to deepen their understanding. That's also one of the strategies. And the last one, he allows them to make films with the answers in journal bilingual. It could be half. It could be one. Obviously, we're not talking as like discussed like essay in English. Right? But in this particular, why not? Even if we talk about essay in English, to write a good essay, you need to do research. What's the difference? What language they will do research? English or Spanish? Thank you for being here. That's why everything will be Spanish. If they read in Spanish, it will be probably just harder for them to write it in English. But the quality of the work will just only improve because they have more variety of resources. They have better understanding. So when we're talking about, can I get the next one? When we're talking about the purpose of trans-languaging, I think we can summarize in these four. that supporting students as they engage and comprehend complex content and seeing that it's less stressful for the students, it saves you time, and it builds confidence, identity, culture, and language confidence. Providing opportunities for students to develop linguistic practices for academic content, making spaces for students' multilingualism and ways of knowing, and support students' multilingual identities and social emotional development. I think my time is soon enough, so be fostered a little bit. And the next one, and this is how to create. Basically, in short, if you're, let's say, if you know what the ID philosophy is, and like in general, the planning cycle, planning of the materials in a cycle. For example, we have introduction or like of the topic, yes, let's say. Then we have given the new concept, like given the content and everything. So for the multilingual things, you can do the same planning. There is like a combination of combining this like three ideas, English integration in some point, and also differentiation. That all will be the elements of creating multilingual space. You can have the posters and such. You put students to work in English and the students with the same language or common language. Create multilingual walls and coordinate charts. I don't think it should be afraid to put as many languages there as it is. Students love to learn new words. It can be one word from any language, but you never know when it starts to be more language. When we have English classroom, can I just keep one more, please? This is my favorite. That's why I want to tell you. Reading bilingual parallel reading. This is awesome tool. You have two books, same author. It's a little bit maybe tricky for the teacher to find the right way of right translation. But you can read a book in English, book in other native language, and ask them to like one chapter from here, the same chapter. They will combine, compare, and see. Just imagine how much time they will save on translating word by word. And it helps them to understand given the layers, how the language works. Why this word in this book, it sounds like, for example, like bread in translation, and in English it will be carb. So that is one layer. Yeah, so we have the same one. But also in international schools, we have the problem when we have students from different countries. There will be never teachers to represent each language. But we need to discuss with you. Why not? Yeah. So you have, for example, the students from Poland and the students from China and the students from Spain. You give them the same book in their own language, and you have a beautiful discussion in one common language, English. Will it change anything for you as a teacher? The child read the vocabulary, you will need to find the words. It will be his job to find the words to describe what he read. It will not be easy yet. If you read the word and translate every word, will you remember this word? No. But giving them chance to understand what they're capable of. Maybe they can analyze the text with a very understanding in their own language, in their own language, but not in English. You need to be able to assess the levels. You will be able to see where it's going. And also, your child in the classroom will never be shy to make a mistake, to try something new, and to actually to blossom, because you always see where it's gone from. So that's a little bit old, I think, for today, and I can give you some time for the lunch. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think we have everybody here, I think, have had a very nice introduction to translanguaging and how that can help our students to lower their doubts so they can feel protected and so they can feel engaged in a language class. Thank you very much.
Thank you for coming to listen.
Thank you.